What's up everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's time for another recap of what went down on this week's episode of Teen Mom 2. Again, if you want to watch all of this online for yourself but you don't live in Canada, I've got a link right down in my description box where you can use the VPN service I watch. With that being said, let's jump into this week's recap. We start off with Chelsea picking Aubree up from school and she tells her that she gave her grandma Donna her phone number, and Aubree is incredibly upset with Chelsea about it. And listen, I know Aubree's only 11 years old, but like just a couple seconds earlier, she was asking Chelsea if she could bring her new cell phone to her grandma's house. And I was like, sis, you didn't think that your grandma would look at your phone and be like, all right, let me put my number in there, like at all? It was a little bit interesting to me, but again, I know she's only 11 years old. I'm just saying that made me laugh a little bit. Meanwhile, in Florida, Dr. Miami needs to be arrested today for shoving basketballs into women's backsides as Shirley heads over to Briana's house to learn that Nova's going to be sleeping over at Devon's mother's house. It's crazy how she went from whining about how the mom had never like appeared for the past 7-8 years to all of a sudden being like, hey, here's my kid, keep it at your house for a night. Like what? Then back up north in Indiana, Shawn's been out of the house for about a week now, and he hasn't even called to check in on Chloe or anything like that. And Jade's parents are sleeping all day, so she has to bring her child to daycare while she heads out to work. And even though her mom acted like she was doing Jade a favor by staying at the house last week. Remember, she's like, Jade, I don't want you here all alone. Like, you know, you're gonna need help with Chloe and stuff. So like, you know, I'm gonna stay with you to help. And like, reality is that this woman is sleeping all day, obviously because she's back on drugs. In my humble opinion anyway. I love how Jade's friend called out her bum ass parents and boyfriend for just trying to live off of her and not wanting to work to pay their own way through life. And guys, wow, Leah, her kids and her grandma all having to be, and her mom all having to be up at 3 a.m. because her trifling ass sister had to get knocked up on a one-night stand on vacation in Costa Rica, and now she's got to deliver the baby, you know. So grandma had to come over to Leah's house to watch the kids, but they were up, and then Leah and her mom went to the hospital with Oreo so that, you know, she could have some company while she delivers this baby that she conceived behind her husband's back on vacation in Costa Rica. When they get to the hospital, Leah talks about how Allie hurt her foot at Corey's house and she's still in a lot of pain. So Leah is worried, and so she calls Corey about it, and she lets him know that the doctors are going to do an x-ray on the foot. And Corey says that Allie didn't tell him anything about her foot hurting, which to me was quite weird because, you know, Corey's always been a doting dad. The kids seem close to him, so why wouldn't she tell her dad that she was in pain? I know kids can be a little bit interesting sometimes, but it made me feel sad for him, you know? By the way, Leah's sister Victoria sounded so ignorant when she asked if there was some way they could make Allie walk flat-footed. As if Leah and the doctors, you know, all this time just wanted her to walk like in the most difficult way possible. Like, yeah, there is a way we can have her walk flat-footed, but look at this. It's so painful for her. Like, I love it. Like, really, girl? Really? You think with your high school diploma that you're coming up with some amazing miracle cure that no one would have done if it were possible all this time? The conversation then takes an even sadder turn when they talk about how, listen, Allie is like 10 years old now, so she's getting to that age where her muscular dystrophy is going to start rapidly deteriorating her body. And then like we get the montage of the doctors talking about how, listen, this is super rare. When she gets to the double digits, it just gets worse and worse. And my heart just breaks so badly for this sweet little girl. Next, we're transported to Delaware, where Kail is pissed off because Javi doesn't want to start meeting her halfway for drop-offs for the kids because Kail, according to him, is mean to him and Lauren. She complains that Javi doesn't want to do it because it's not convenient for him, and I was like, sis, I'm pretty sure that is how favors work. Like, people only do favors when they're convenient to them or when they feel like it. You're the one who picked up your kids and moved them like, what, 45 minutes away from their dads to chase someone who wanted nothing to do with you. So, you know, it's your problem. You should be the one who drives 100% of the way. If they agree to do it and sometimes change their mind, that's fine. It's a big commitment, and I don't think they have to be committed to it for life because you are chasing DICK all across the state lines. Anyway, to pay him back for being so mean for not driving halfway, Kail claims that Javi tried to bang her last week in the Wawa parking lot, which, guys, is quite believable. It's Javi. He's, you know, he's already cheated on that Lauren girl. And then Kail, she conceived Lux in a strip mall parking lot, so this might be he might have been setting up a scene. Like, it sounds a little trashy to us, but for Kail, it might be romantic. The last guy got a kid out of it. According to Kail, this is what happened, you know, to set the tone. She's in the gas station, you know, pumping her gas, and Javi comes strolling over, opens the door to her car, and says, I want to F you, plain and simple. Isn't it a little bit interesting to me that Kail lives so far away from Dover, and she just happened to be at the gas station pumping a little gas when Javier comes over, opens the door, tells him that he wants to F her? That wasn't planned. I'm supposed to believe he was minding his own business in her neck of the woods, looking for gas stations to find Punani at, like, really? And then she shows up to us like a bunch of text messages of Javi constantly trying to like meet up with her, and it's like pretty obvious, like he's trying to hit it. And I about gag, because to me it's like, this is, yeah, it's proof that he is trying to bang you, but to me it's also proof that something happened between you guys for this man to feel so comfortable trying to connect with you so much, you know? Like, I think something happened between the two of them, and you know, who knows, maybe it's gonna come out later in the season if he continues to piss her off enough, because she's already shown that she is more than ready to put all that information out there if he continues to upset her. With all of that being said though, shame on Javi for all of this. Like, your poor, long-suffering girlfriend Lauren truly needs to get some self-esteem and move on with her life. Like, you already called her your third choice a couple of seasons before she got pregnant with your son Eli. Then she gets pregnant, and what do you do while she's upstairs nursing your child that she carried for like 9 months, pushed out, everything? You sleep with someone in the house downstairs, you know? And now all this stuff with Kail, which pretty much looks like you two have been knocking boots behind her back. I think that there's a fundamental character issue at play here that's got you continuously cheating on people. And, you know, I think he needs professional help at this point. Dr. Drew was probably right when he said that Javi might be a sex and a love addict. And Kail had a point about how he could find it in him to come to her hood to bang her, but not to get his own kid. Again, pretty shameful. And lastly, shame on you, Kail, for participating in this in the first place. And second of all, for you airing out Lauren and, you know, your son's father in this capacity on television for the world to see. I don't think that Lauren and Lincoln deserve this. Then we get a little bit of Javi manipulation here, because Kail talks about how she's filming right now, and he's like, oh, don't say nothing crazy. Then all of a sudden he's like, oh, my brother's gonna be like in your hood. He's gonna pick up Lincoln for me. And by the way, can I hang out with Isaac as well? Obviously to look a lot better, right? Like, oh, like, here's this guy taking on this kid that's not even his, it's not his step kid anymore, blah, blah, blah. And then he tells Kail, now say thank you, which I felt like was so condescending and doesn't work on anyone, much less Kail. Back down south in Florida again, Briana and her mom drop Nova off at her other grandma's house, and her mom cries tears of joy over the milestone, which was sweet. But again, you guys, I'm really baffled at how they went from, you know, no relationship for almost a decade with Nova's grandma to just handing Nova off to her in the middle of a school week. She's like, you've got her uniform and stuff. She goes to school at 8. I'm like, what? Like, why is this woman sleeping over with this child all of a sudden out of the blue? That she, like, really, you couldn't go out to dinner with her first? You couldn't like go to the park with her first for a little bit, like ease your way into this? It was quite weird. Back up north in Indiana again, Shawn calls Jade and she says, listen, it's been like about a week and a half since I last spoke to him, so why is he calling me at this time? It's late at night. I don't like these late night calls. And so he claims that the videos that her parents took of him in their bedroom allegedly planting drugs in there was fake. He apologizes for beating up her dad, and then he tries to manipulate her to turn her against her parents. You know, he's like, oh, they're so suspicious, sleeping all day, not working, all the stuff that he does as well. Jade tells her that she wants him to come over and see Chloe, and then in her voiceover, she tells us she's gonna drug test that ass. A few states over in Delaware, we get a scene of Javi coaching the boys, you know, football in the backyard, just the three of them, with a voiceover of Kail talking about how Javi embarrassed her in front of Isaac when she went to pick the boys up from basketball practice. So she summons her friend to cornrow her hair. It was very odd. I was like, all right, sis. And then she tells a friend, what did Javi do to embarrass me so bad in front of my son? The man did not say hello to her, apparently, you know, and there could be a multitude of reasons why in the middle of a busy gym, he didn't have time to say hello to you as you were picking up your kids, you know, and we've seen Kail do this to Joe in front of the son that they share, Isaac, you know, purposely, because she's been upset about child support and stuff like that. Remember when she was wearing those like booty club shorts with her butt cheeks hanging out when she went to the basketball thing with a white tank top, no bra, boobies spilling out, and she was just scowling the whole time a couple seasons ago, etc., etc. You know, to me, she sounded like a hurt side chick. She really did. It only further enforced in my mind that something happened between the two of them, that Kail, that petty Betty, would be so pressed about Javi not saying hi to her. Like, I wonder what she wore. She's probably like, listen, I have my titties all out. He didn't say hi to me after the way I let him hit it in the Wawa parking lot. You know, it just did not, to me, it just did not. And then she claimed that Isaac said, oh, well, that's awkward, which again, I don't even know if that happened. I'm pretty sure it was a busy gym. She scooped the boys up and just went about her business. And then what did she do? She blames it on Javi's main chick. Again, she's sounding like a bitter side chick. She goes, I bet it's because Lauren was outside. I'll take her place one day. Jealousy, jealousy, jealousy. Her friend asks her, what's it gonna take for her to have a good relationship with Lauren? And Kail says that she can't have a good relationship with Lauren until Javi is 100% honest with her one day. But he won't be, because that would jeopardize their relationship. Again, let's read between the lines, shall we? Then we're back down south in Florida again, where Nova had to be picked up from school because she was crying for Briana, because listen, her routine was completely interrupted, and of course, like, she was really sad about it. She's always been a very, you know, shy, emotional girl, so it wasn't really surprising to me that that happened. So Briana and her mom pick her up and stuff, reassure her that like it's fine, like they get it. It was just a disruption, a massive disruption in her schedule to be dropped off at school by a complete stranger. And then Briana does a voiceover, and instead of acknowledging that, like, maybe I jumped in too quick, maybe I should have eased the relationship in a little bit before I just handed over my child in the middle of a school week, she goes, you know what, like, maybe I should have let her sleep over at the Vaughn's mom's house. I was like, girl, are you okay? Like, everything is not extreme black and white. You could just slow the heck down. Meanwhile, in West Virginia, it is time for Leah's sister Victoria to push out her baby, and I feel like, listen, that baby was already pushed out like a while ago. What did they do? They put it under the blanket and pretended she pushed it out. She didn't even like crunch to like put nothing. They're like, oh, here she is pushing out the baby. Meanwhile, Victoria, and then all of a sudden the baby slides out. Like, really, really? No. By the way, her one night stand, the one they claim is her boyfriend Royer, was watching the whole thing from FaceTime as well. Meanwhile, in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Polar Chelsea looked jaundiced and incredibly stressed out when she sat at the kitchen table with her husband Cole, anxious about the idea of Aubree having Adam, her father, as a contact on her phone. It was during the scene where I was like, oh my God, what does Cole ever contribute to conversations? Because to me, all he does is parrot back stuff that Chelsea says. You know, like, she said something about, like, you know, what if Aubree wants Adam as a contact on her phone? Cole's like, oh my God, what if Aubree wants Adam as a contact on the phone? I was like, dude, she just said that. And it just kept happening through the conversation where I was like, wait a second, is that all this guy does in their conversations? But anyway, I get her stress about, you know, what could happen if, you know, Aubree did get Adam on her phone. She's like, what if Aubree texts Adam one day and he just doesn't respond and just never responds? And I was like, man, that's sad. That is a really sad thought, and I think it's a very valid fear to have. I was laughing so hard at the cognitive dissonance when Jade was telling us that she wanted Shawn to take a drug test because her unemployed parents, who sleep around in the house all day, think that he's using drugs. I was like, really, Jade? These people who do nothing but sleep all day think that this man is doing drugs. Shawn comes over to her house and Jade immediately asks him to take a drug test, which he agrees to do, but then he comes across a little bit nervous about it. And then afterwards he's like, did I pass? And it turns out he did pass. And so I'm like, was he telling the truth this whole time, or did he have someone's pee in his back pocket ready for a moment like this? I don't know. I'm on the fence, you guys. I'm really curious what you think. Jade is very relieved, pun intended, that Shawn passed the urine test, and you know, they have a conversation about like the parents and stuff, and Shawn's like, listen, I don't want to be around your parents, you know, and Jade's like, dude, I don't want to be around them either half the time, and I know that they would never take the drug test, so I'm gonna ask them to leave. And she says, but in the meantime, I guess you're gonna have to stay somewhere else until that happens. And he's like, that's fine, I'm gonna stay with my parents. They're gonna let me stay as long as I need to. And so I guess we're gonna watch that play out as the season progresses. How do you think her parents are gonna take being thrown out of the house? I think her mom is gonna try to manipulate her like crazy and like just act a plumb fool. Back down south in Florida again, Devon, his mother and sister come over to the Dejesus apartment to talk about how sad Nova felt earlier at school, like, you know, needing to be pulled out and everything, which was sweet. I was like, this is nice. She's got like a nice big family support system, both sides and everything. They're all listening, they're all reassuring her. And Nova actually said that she did want to sleep over again at her grandma's house, and I was like, that's sweet. You know, I hope that they are still continuing that relationship going forward. And then this genius, Briana, goes, wow, maybe it just takes time to get used to a stranger then. I guess it wasn't that bad. Anyway, Leah brings her daughter, Allie, to visit her sister in the hospital after she gives birth. She wants to see the baby and everything. But for some reason, Allie isn't in a wheelchair, despite the fact that her doctor has been telling her for years to put this child in a wheelchair to conserve her energy, you know? And not only that, Allie was just talking about how she hurt her foot so bad, you know, so why is she not in a wheelchair to help her move around? Hospitals are huge, first of all, so this poor girl walking around on an already fragile body, legs, due to her muscular dystrophy, then on top of that already being injured, she, like, what? Hospitals are also incredibly wheelchair friendly. So to me, there's no excuse here. I just felt like, what is this girl doing at this point? I don't understand it, you know, especially after all of the hoopla she caused trying to make Corey look like a bad dad, because insurance took a while to get this wheelchair, and you know, where is it? So after all of that, Leah takes Allie, they're in the car, they're on the way to the x-ray appointment, and she asked Allie if she noticed a difference in her walking before the injury. She's like, you know, was it a result of like something changing with the way walking is? Is it getting more difficult and stuff? And then Allie says, you know, I just cried so hard, I screamed so hard, I've never screamed so hard. And then Leah starts crying about, you know, everything that's going on with her daughter's health, which is very sad. And I hope it's a wake-up call for her to start helping her daughter out a little bit more by having her use the wheelchair. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're on your way to an x-ray for her leg and you had her walking around on her leg all day across the hospital. It didn't make any sense to me, you guys. But anyway, it is very, very sad nonetheless, and I hope that things are a lot better with Allie these days. And last, you guys, that's it. That's your recap of what went down on this week's episode of Teen Mom 2. But as usual, I'm more excited to hear what you have to say about everything, so please make sure to leave all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.